Hi, I'm Sam Duncan, and in this opening lecture, I just want to say a little bit about what to expect out of the course, what it is we'll be talking about, what philosophical ethics even is, and then, what I hope you get out of the course. Um, all right, so what then is philosophical ethics? Now, look, ethics, is the study of what we should do, what is right and wrong. Um, but I think there are a few different ways you can study these questions, right? And I want to be clear the way that we're going to study them, the way that philosophers study them. Now, look, you might think of the way that, say, psychologists or anthropologists study questions of wrong, right? You know, what do people think is right and wrong? What kinds of moral judgments do people make? Um, and you might think of, like they go out and they do these polls and they say, well, what do you think on the question of abortion, right? Is it morally permissible? Is it morally okay? I mean, is it wrong? Is it right in some circumstances, wrong in others? And then whoever does the poll will come back and give us these results. Well, X% think this, Y% think that, so on and so forth, right? Or you might think of an anthropologist. He goes and visits some group that probably you or I've never heard of, and he says, well, these people think this, this, and this about what's right, what's wrong, and it differs from what we think in these ways, right? That's not what philosophers do. That's not what we're going to do in an ethics class. We're not going to be looking at the facts of what people think is right and wrong. We're going to be looking at what people should think, what we should think about what's right and wrong. Not about what people do, but about what we should do, what we should think about ethics. You know, not asking, well, what do people think about this question? What should we think about it, right? And so you might be thinking, well, how in the world we're going to do that? Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'll say more about that in future lectures. It'll be a question that'll pop up repeatedly in the class. Well, look, you might be thinking, one of the things that a lot of people I think with the philosophy class is, oh my goodness, this is going to be really disconnected from anything that I do in real life. This is going to be a bunch of weird, bizarre questions that have nothing to do with life, right? I don't know if you've ever heard this, but that old stereotype of people talking about how many angels can dance on the head of a pin. That's not what we're going to do in this class. I don't think that what we're doing is either disconnected from your day-to-day life, or when you think about it, I don't think it's going to be something that's all that new or weird. Well, why do I say that? Well, I say that because thinking about ethical questions in the way that philosophers do, arguing about them, deciding what to do, this is something we do all the time. You have done this before you ever decided to take an ethics class, right? I'll give you guys a few examples, right? Suppose you are running really late for work, you have a really busy day, you don't have any spare time, but lo and behold, in front of you, you see that someone has dropped their wallet. This person is nowhere to be seen. What do, right? Do you have a moral obligation to pick this wallet up, try to find this person, or would you be justified just to go about your day, right? In thinking about that, that is an ethical question. You are thinking about ethics in the way that we will in a philosophy class. What is the right thing to do here? Is it morally acceptable? Is it okay if you just ignore it and go about your business? Or do you have some kind of duty? Are you required to pick this wallet up, try to find its owner? Or I'll give you another example. Suppose you're watching TV one night, and I know this is a stretch, everybody streams everything now, but just imagine one of these ads comes on for some charity. You see it, you see all this suffering in the world, and the charity says, well, we can do something about it, right? Well, again, you face this question. You feel kind of guilty. Should you feel guilty? And if you feel guilty, well, does that mean you're required to go online, punch your credit card in, and give these guys some money, right? You face a decision, what's the right thing to do? And it's not just that you decide personally, we have moral arguments with other people all the time. Think about this, right? Think about those discussions we all have at Thanksgiving or Christmas that maybe we don't like so much, right? You get in some kind of argument about politics with your uncle. Well, usually those kinds of political arguments, when you get right down to it, are moral arguments. You are arguing about ethics. And think of it this way, right? I don't know which side you have, which side your uncle has. Fill in the roles appropriately, right? Let's say that one of you says, well, some people are innovators, they're inventors, they work hard, they create this stuff that helps society. Well, don't they deserve a reward for that? So we should cut taxes so these people get to keep more of their income. Then the other of you says, well, yeah, but think about this. There are all kinds of poor people in society who are poor through no fault of their own. Don't they deserve some help? Well, we should raise taxes so we can help these people. Or, look, all kinds of people want to work hard. They don't have the money to go to college, so we should raise taxes to help these people, right? Or, we'll all get more stuff that we like if people are encouraged to invent. They'll do that if they get to keep more of their taxes. Now look, I'm not telling you which side you should take here, but I want you to notice these are all moral arguments. If you in your life have ever had an argument about politics, you have almost certainly had a moral argument. If you have ever faced a decision about what to do, you have done the kind of thing we're doing in this class. This is not new to you. Well, then you might be thinking, well, if it's not new to me, if we all do this anyway, why in the world should we take this class, right? If we already do this, if we already know how to do this, isn't this maybe like taking a breathing class, right? We already know how to breathe. Well, why take a class on it? Well, I think for a few reasons. One reason is, just because we already do something doesn't mean we can't do it better. And one of the things, I want you to be able to do in this class, I want you to look at your moral reasons, look at the moral arguments, think about them, recognize different kinds of reasons, and maybe see how much weight you ought to give them, how much, how important they actually are. We offer all kinds of different reasons in moral argument. At the very least, I want us to be able to recognize them. Each of the moral theories we're going to talk about really focuses on a different kind of reason. They all try to capture morality. All the theories are going to have their problems, but I do think they're all going to capture something important, and I think that'll put us in a better position to recognize our own reasons. And look, in our day-to-day lives, most of us know what the right thing to do is. It's just a matter of doing it. And let's not expect too much out of an ethics class. If you're not concerned with doing the right thing, this class is not going to fix it, right? I hear people all the time say, well, we just need to give people more ethics classes when some horrible scandal happens, right? But, think of, for instance, Bernie Madoff, right? If you guys don't know who Madoff is, he was a guy who was a stockbroker, but he actually just cheated his clients and ran a pyramid scheme, right? People would invest with him, he would skim off the top, redistribute the new investors' money to the old ones. Everybody thought they were making money in the stock market. Lo and behold, they weren't. Everybody lost their money. Madoff did this so he could live in luxury. Now, my point here is, if you're Bernie Madoff, you know it's not right to cheat and defraud your clients. You just don't care. If you're Bernie Madoff and you just don't care, this class is not going to fix that, right? No ethics class will fix that. But think about this, right? We, in our lives, even if we do care about being a good person, even if we are trying, we are going to face situations where it's not clear what the right thing to do is. I'll give you guys an example in the discussion post I'm going to put up, but just a short version of it is think about this, right? Suppose you're an attorney and your client, you are sworn to secrecy. You can't tell what he tells you, but suppose he tells you, well, guess what? Not only am I guilty of the crime I've been charged with, murder, but I've actually murdered other people. What do you do there, right? Do you give this guy good legal representation like you're supposed to? System doesn't work unless everyone, even the most horrible people, get representation. Or do you in some way let the authorities know about his other crimes, right? Do you tell his secret even though you said you wouldn't, right? The families of his other victims, they don't know. The police are wasting resources looking for these victims. You could allow the families to know what happened to their loved ones. You could allow the police to get onto other cases if you told. But on the other hand, you promise not to, and you as an attorney have these duties, right? Our system wouldn't work if attorneys didn't follow them. We have these moral considerations on each side. Which one should somebody faced with the situation follow? And I don't think it's clear. You're going to see I have my own opinion about this in the discussion post, but there's room for different views here. And one of the things I hope you'll do from an ethics class is get into a better position when you face these really hard, these really new cases, will put you in a better position to think them through. Well, why else take an ethics class? Well, one other reason to take an ethics class is, we're going to practice arguing, we're going to practice discussing ethical questions a lot. And let me tell you, and I don't think, that you need me to tell you this, but we are, all of us, as a society, we are really bad at arguing, at discussing with people who disagree with us on moral matters. And one of the things that I hope you'll get out of this class is that you'll get a bit better at doing this, a bit better at having a productive discussion about a moral issue, about an ethical decision with people who disagree with you. And look, I know another stereotype of philosophy is that we never reach any conclusions, right? You just spin in circles and you never get anywhere. Well, I don't think that's fair. There are a lot of times that philosophers have reached, even in moral philosophy, hard conclusions, right? People used to believe that kings had a divine right to do pretty much whatever they want. One of the reasons we no longer believe that is, a philosopher, John Locke, gave really compelling arguments against it. The settled moral questions we don't talk about because they're not very interesting. If I went on for an hour in this class about how kings don't have divine rights over people, you would be bored out of your wits, so we don't talk about that. But it is true, a lot of times philosophers will leave a question open. A lot of times philosophy will just show you, oh yeah, here's why this question is hard, I don't know what the answer is. Well, look, that can be frustrating, but I think it's valuable, right? Moral decisions are often hard. Moral questions are often hard. And one of the things I want you to be able to do is to see why they're hard, and not just to see why they're hard, but to see why other people might reach a different decision on these matters than you do. And I think this can do two things. One, hopefully you'll be in a better position to learn from other people, right? There's nothing that says your current moral beliefs or my current moral beliefs are the best ones. You might have a discussion with another person, as odd as this sounds in our society, and end up changing your mind. End up thinking, oh, they have good reasons for this, they're better than my reasons. I want to put you guys in a better position to maybe have those sorts of discussions. Now look though, you might not change your mind. In fact, usually we don't. But even if we don't, if we appreciate why another person has the views they do, well, I think that helps because, we have this tendency to think, well, if someone disagrees with me on a moral question, they have to be a stupid person or a bad person, right? If, big political questions, when should we go to war, what's the morality of abortion, even stuff like what should tax policy be, when we have these political arguments, we think, this person must be a bad person, they don't agree with me, right? I want to put you in a position to see, well, okay, here's why they might disagree with me. Here's why an honest, intelligent person might reach different moral judgments than I do. And look, you might still disagree with them. You might think, oh, I see why he or she thinks that. I'm also going to get up early on election day to make sure to cancel out their vote. But at least, I want you to be in this position to respect other people and their reasons for judgment. At best, to maybe learn from them, but at worst, just to have a respect for why these questions are hard, why other people might not agree with you. All right. Two other maybe less inspiring things I hope you get from an ethics class or just any philosophy class. Well, two of them. We in this class are going to talk a lot about moral arguments. And being that this is an online class, we are going to write a lot about moral arguments. And look, it's important, whatever you do when you leave this class, that you can write well, that you can argue well in writing. We are going to develop that skill here. Finally, and this is probably the least inspiring, but unfortunately it is important, philosophy is very good, and I hate to put it this way, but I can think of no other way to put it. Philosophy is very good at helping you develop a BS detector. Other people are going to make arguments. Oftentimes they'll be bad arguments, and they're going to try to convince you to do or think something. Well, when those arguments are bad or tricky, we are going to have so much practice in this class looking at moral arguments, looking at moral reasoning, taking those arguments, taking that reasoning apart. If you take a philosophy class and you treat it seriously, you will get better at spotting bad arguments. Not an inspiring thing to say maybe, but unfortunately in the society we live in the world we live in, that's a pretty valuable skill. Okay, so that's really all I want to talk about in this first lecture. Hopefully you have somewhat better sense of what the class is about, what I want you to get out of it.